There's just something about knives. Ever since I was a little kid, I was always fascinated by them. And making them? That's even cooler. Making knives wasn't something I really ever planned on doing. It was kind of one of those things where I'm surfing through YouTube watching knife make videos, and then I'm like, I want to take a crack at that. But then you make one, and after that, it just becomes an obsession. For this knife, I'll be using 3/16 1075 steel. Now let's bust out the grinding wheel and make a knife. Now that I've finished roughing out the knife using power tools, it's time to bring it to its more exact shape using files. I'm going to file in some grooves at the spine of the knife where you'd place your thumb for extra grip. I wanted to do something fancier, but I figured I should start with something basic, and I'm glad I did. Here I'm marking the center line for where the grinds on each side will meet, forming the edge of the blade. I find I get better results when I hold the drill bit in place and slide the knife across it as opposed to the other way around. This is a simple beveling jig that's used for grinding the angles on a knife. It uses a 12-inch bastard file attached to a rod that goes through an eye hole. This way it holds a specific angle the whole time you're using it. And from my understanding, you should only be grinding on the push stroke using circular motions. As you lower the eye hole, it lessens your angle, bringing your grind closer and closer to the spine of the knife. A quick flip to the other side, followed by another hour plus of hand grinding. I'm also going to put a slight bevel on the spine of the blade just to thin the blade out. Hand sanding the blade is a very tedious experience, especially after hand filing the bevels. The file leaves such deep scratches in the blade that I actually had to go all the way back to 80 grit sandpaper, which also leaves very deep scratches and takes a long time to work out. For the hard to reach places, I use sandpaper wrapped around files. Here I'm marking out where the pins will go and marking out where I'll put some extra holes to get rid of some weight in the handle. This time around I made sure to drill the holes before I did the heat treatment. I made a paint can forge before starting this project, and it definitely helped out a lot. I basically heated the knife until it was no longer magnetized, and then heated it a little longer, and then quenched it. Once the quench was done, I cleaned up the blade a little bit with some high grit sandpaper and then threw it in the oven to temper the steel. With the steel in the oven cooking for dinner, it's time to bust out some wood and make some knife scales. For this, I used some wang and some kind of spalted dyed wood. I felt with Halloween coming up, it's only right to throw some orange in the handle. I did the glue up in 2 steps to make it easier. The first time around, I glued the 2 biggest pieces of wang together, and then I glued in the accents. Here I'm drilling the holes in the scales and cutting the pins out. The last knife I made, the pins didn't line up perfectly between the scales. So this time I'm going to use the pins and clamp the first scale on and then drill through that scale and through the other scale. This way the pins will line up. Now I'm going to trace the scales out and remove as much of the material as possible before I glue it to the knife. I'll be using mostly my bandsaw for this. With the scales ready, it's time to epoxy them and the knife together. I'll use my belt grinder to get the pins flush with the scales. And after all that, we are back to the hand files to bring the scales to their final shape. I'm going to put a little bit of an edge on the knife using the belt sander, and then after I put the finish on the handle, I'll finish sharpening it on the stones. I'll be using boiled linseed oil for the finish on the handle. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And if you'd like to see more, don't forget to hit the notification bell. Thanks for watching.